Some stories grip you because of their mystery, others because of their horror. And then there are those so shocking, so unbelievable, that they stay with you forever. This is one of those stories, a story that will challenge what you think you know about fear, pain, and survival. But it's not just about what happened on one terrible night in 1994. It's about the fight to reclaim life, to rise again after being broken, and to prove that, even in the face of unspeakable evil, the human spirit can be unstoppable. Before we begin, take a deep breath. Imagine being kidnapped, assaulted, and left for dead in the middle of nowhere. Now imagine waking up and deciding in that moment that you will not die here. This is the true story of Alison Botha, a woman who faced the impossible and won. Chapter 1: A Life Full of Promise. Alison Botha grew up in Port Elizabeth, South Africa. She was a high-achieving student, head girl at her school, and known for her warm, friendly personality. At 27, she had a stable career, a close group of friends, and a love for the beachside life. Her world was calm, predictable, safe. At least it seemed that way. Chapter 2: The Night It All Changed. December 18, 1994. A hot summer evening in Port Elizabeth. Alison spent the day with friends on the beach, enjoying the South African sun. That night, she drove a friend home, then headed back to her apartment complex. She pulled into her parking space. The lot was dim, quiet. She switched off the ignition and reached for her belongings when a shadow fell over her. A man stood at her door, a knife pressed to her throat. Calm, deliberate, he slid into the passenger seat. His name was Franz Dutoit. He told her he needed the car for a few hours and promised to let her go. But Alison knew that was a lie. Chapter 3: The Second Man. They drove through the quiet streets until Franz told her to stop. Another man stepped out from the shadows and climbed in. Hans Kruger. The two men told her to keep driving. Soon the city lights faded behind them. Street lights became rare. And then there was nothing but dirt roads and silence. Trigger warning. The next part of this story contains descriptions of sexual violence and extreme physical assault. While there are no graphic visuals, the details may be distressing to some viewers. If you wish to skip this part, jump ahead to the time on screen now. Chapter 4: The Attack. On that lonely stretch of dirt road, Alison's nightmare began. The men assaulted her repeatedly, taunting her, telling her she would never leave alive. Then they stabbed her more than 30 times in the abdomen. But they weren't finished. One of them took the knife to her throat, slashing 17 times from ear to ear, so deep that she was nearly decapitated. Certain she was dead, they dragged her into the bushes, left her in the dirt, and drove away. Chapter 5: The Impossible Survival. Hours later, Alison woke up. Her body was battered, her windpipe was severed, and her neck wounds were so deep she had to physically hold her head up with one hand to keep it from falling back. She knew she was dying, but something inside her refused to give in. She got to her feet, barefoot, bleeding heavily. She began staggering toward the distant sound of traffic. Chapter 6: The Road to Help. Every step was agony. Alison later said she didn't know if she walked for minutes or hours. Time had stopped. Finally, headlights appeared. A young man named Tien Eilerd was driving home with a friend. They saw her stumbling across the road and stopped immediately. Tien wrapped her in a blanket, pressed down on her wounds, and raced her to the nearest hospital. Chapter 7: The Fight in the Hospital. When Alison arrived, doctors gave her less than a 20% chance of survival. She had lost more than half her blood. Her abdomen was riddled with deep stab wounds. Her windpipe had been cut open. Surgeons worked through the night, reattaching muscles and nerves, repairing her airway, and cleaning the massive injuries. Against all odds, she survived. And then, the final twist. Alison remembered everything. She described her attackers in detail, even spelling their names for police. Within days, police had them in custody. Both men confessed. Chapter 8: Justice. In 1995, Franz Dutoit and Thunes Kruger were sentenced to life in prison for kidnapping, rape, and attempted murder. The judge called the attack monstrous beyond comprehension. Neither man has ever been released. Alison not only survived, she rebuilt her life. She became a motivational speaker, telling her story to audiences across the world. She wrote a book, I Have Life, and her story was adapted into a documentary. Her message is simple but unforgettable. Every person has the strength to face anything. You just have to decide to fight. Alison Botha's courage didn't just save her life, it ensured her attackers could never hurt anyone else again. In a world where monsters sometimes win, Alison proved they don't have to. Chapter 9, The World Reacts. News of Alison's survival spread like wildfire, first across South Africa, then around the globe. Headlines called her the woman who would not die and South Africa's miracle survivor. The brutality of the crime shocked even hardened investigators, but it was her will to survive that captured the public's heart. People who had never met her sent letters, flowers, and prayers. Others came forward to share their own survival stories, saying her courage gave them the strength to keep going. Alison's name became a symbol of hope and a reminder that evil can be fought and beaten. Chapter 10. Turning pain into purpose. Recovery wasn't just about healing her body. Alison knew she needed to reclaim her voice. She began speaking at schools, community centers, and women's groups. Her goal was not just to tell her story, but to teach others how to protect themselves, and more importantly, to believe in their own inner strength. Over time, her speeches reached international audiences. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was a teacher, an advocate, and a role model. Every time she stepped on stage, she proved that the human spirit is stronger than any act of violence. Chapter 11. Beyond survival. In the months after leaving the hospital, Alison faced a new kind of battle, rebuilding her life. Physically, her recovery was grueling. She had to relearn basic movements, live with lingering pain, and endure countless medical checkups. The emotional scars were deeper. Nightmares haunted her. Flashbacks pulled her back to that road. But day after day, she refused to let what happened define her. Her story became a rallying cry for survivors everywhere. She began working with safety awareness programs, and her book, I Have Life, was adapted into a documentary, ensuring her message would reach future generations. As she once said in an interview, I am not defined by what happened to me. I am defined by how I chose to live after. Alison Botha's journey remains a testament that sometimes, even in the darkest moments, the human spirit can shine brightest. What happened to Alison Botha wasn't just another crime story. It was a turning point in how many people saw survival itself. Her name has become shorthand for courage. Her story shared in classrooms, women's safety courses, and even psychology lectures. Every person who hears it takes something different away. For some, it's a warning about the dangers that can exist in the quiet corners of life. For others, it's a reminder that even when we feel powerless, there is a choice to keep moving forward, even if it's one impossible step at a time. Today, decades after that night, Alison lives a life she chooses. She laughs, she travels, she raises her children. All things her attackers tried to take from her. And every single day she does these things, she wins again. Because survival isn't just about making it out alive, it's about living well enough to prove they didn't break you. For more stories like this, make sure to subscribe to my channel, CrimesonTrue. Thank you for watching.